Emily, come warm yourself by the fire.
Okay. You know it's only a TV monitor, right?
Yeah. But you know what I really want for the holidays? I'm spending Hanukkah in Santa Monica, wearing sandals, lighting candles by the sea.
I spent Shavuos in East St. Louis, a charming spot, but clearly not a spot for me.
Those eastern winters I can't endure 'em, so every year I pack my gear and come out here to Purim.
Rosh Hashanah I spend in Arizona, and Yom Kippur way down in Mississippi.
But in December there's just one place for me.
Amid the California flora, I'll be lighting my menorah.
Like a baby in his cradle, I'll be playing with my dreidel.
Spending Hanukkah
In Santa Monica by the sea. I'm spending Hanukkah in Santa Monica, wearing sandals, lighting candles by the sea.
I spent Shavuos in East St. Louis, a charming spot, but clearly not the spot for me.
Those eastern winters I can't endure 'em, so every year I pack my gear and come out here to Purim.
Rosh Hashanah I spend in Arizona, and Yom Kippur way down in Mississippi.
But in December there's just one place for me.
Amid the California flora, I'll be lighting my menorah.
Like a baby in his cradle, I'll be playing with my dreidel.
Here's to join us, Maccabeus. Boy, if he could only see us.
Spending Hanukkah in Santa Monica by the sea.
So this was a suggestion from my dad, who is probably the #1 Tom Lehrer fan in the entire world ever that has ever existed. I would hazard that guess. This song has pretty much one joke, which is that Jewish holidays have fun names that can rhyme in unexpected ways. And it is a very elegant joke, and I do think it sustains.
I was just remembering the Adam Sandler classic, Put on Your Yarmulke, It's Time for Hanukkah. And I wonder if there's just something inherently funny about the word Hanukkah itself and getting things to rhyme with it. Hanukkah is also a festive holiday. You know, it's less about atoning for your sins than the average Jewish holiday. So it's an easier thing to have a moment of levity about, even though the situation that was the genesis of Hanukkah was very dire at the time. Since it all worked out for the best, now we can think of it as a joyous holiday and an example of resilience.
I think that's something that really sustains a lot of Jewish musical comedy. One of my favorite pieces of musical comedy, period, is Remember That We Suffered from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which is set at a bar mitzvah, and everyone is dancing the hora and singing this really merry, merry song, and the chorus is Remember That We Suffered, hey, which to me speaks a lot to Jewish humor and works with Hanukkah as well. I think it works in Hanukkah and Santa Monica, because if we look at the origins of Hanukkah, I think there's a nice juxtaposition of those arduous trials versus and we'll spend it in Santa Monica now.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely the crux of Jewish humor that we're juxtaposing things that were insanely traumatic with very dark humor about it. And I'm also just now thinking of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It's about a female Jewish comedian in the late 50s, early 60s, and how she goes from being an Upper West Side housewife to a well-known comedian. That's also a very shining example of dark but somehow uplifting Jewish humor.
I feel like a lot of that humor and art is tied to this idea of resilience in the face of trauma or oppression. With Hanukkah and Santa Monica, I do think that's part of the juxtaposition that makes it funny. It's not necessarily on a surface level or something you would quickly think of, but there is that juxtaposition there of like, oh, this was a miracle that came at a very difficult time versus now we're going to hang out on the beach.